am Gaylan Bordenada and I am part of Group 8 and we will be discussing networking and Ethernet cable. Next slide, please. So in this presentation, we will be focusing on 4 different areas. First is the definition of network, then what is Ethernet, then we have the categories of Ethernet cables and the limitations of Ethernet. Next slide. So let us first define network. So para madalian tayo na ma-define what is network exactly, let us imagine your home setup right now. Most of you are probably using Wi-Fi networks because we're currently in a pandemic, so lahat sa pamilya, we need a connection to the internet, and the Wi-Fi network is the best way to do it. And yeah, based on the name itself, Wi-Fi network is a network because your laptop, your cell phone, your parents' phones, their devices, if they're connected to the Wi-Fi, it means that they're all connected together with the Wi-Fi hotspot. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yun. So, balik. Yun. So, here's the definition, the textbook definition. It consists of multiple devices that communicate with one another. So, basically, yung laptop mo, yung computer, yung cell phone, tablets, all of that are communicating with one another through the Wi-Fi network. And even walang internet, for example, like down yung internet, but connected ka pa rin sa Wi-Fi hotspot ninyo, it still means that you're still in a network. So, paano ka ba makakaalis sa isang network? You can only get out of a network when you disconnect from the Wi-Fi. You can do this by turning your Wi-Fi off or, just saying that you're going to disconnect sa whatever device you're on. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about what is Ethernet. So the textbook definition is, Ethernet is a type of communication protocol that connects computers within what's called a local area network and a wide area network. LAN and WAN connects various devices such as laptops and printers within homes, buildings, and even small neighborhoods. Basically, ang Ethernet is just a communication standard. So standard lang siya. It's like a type of how you would set up a network. And usually when we hear the word Ethernet, usually naiisip natin is that it's a physical connection because when we hear the Ethernet, we're probably thinking of yung Ethernet ports na natatagpuan sa routers or sa laptops, wherein you connect a cable there so that you can connect to the internet. Although that's not the case, Ethernets can come, with, again, LAN and WAN. Routers, yung Wi-Fi routers natin, they're also using the Ethernet. So it's a misconception na ang Ethernet is only for physical connections. Next slide.
So, I am Gracie Cortez. Na-define ni Gail what is a network and what is Ethernet. So, pero saan ba nagsimula yung Ethernet? So, I'm going to explain about the brief history of Ethernet. Yung Ethernet, it was discovered by Bob Metcalfe on May 22, 1973. Nag-wrote siya ng memo na yung Ethernet, isa siyang system na pwede mapag-connect yung computer workstations. Tas bukod doon, possible na makapag-send ka ng different datas. So yung Ethernet, nagko-connect siya ng branches nga like local area networks and wide area networks para makapagbigay ng internet, para makapag-connect sa internet service providers and to give international exchanges. Pero the earliest standards of internet networking really originate from 1970s. It drew an inspiration from Aloha.net. So what is Aloha.net? So Aloha.net is a computer networking system developed at the University of Hawaii. It was continued, but after that, it was continually iterated upon throughout the 70s, and it was been commercially available and standardized in the 1980s. Pero that time, coaxial cables is the most popular and dominant form of connective technology kasi nakakasupport siya ng bitrate of 10 megabits per second sa isang local network. Pero after some decades that followed, as higher bit rates and bandwidths were required, a slow transition was made to twisted pair and fiber optic hardware along with newer switch technology which has enabled speed of ups to 400 gigabits per second. Although there have been competing networking technologies over the years, Ethernet adaptation to changes in the market and adaptations of new hardware to provide greater stability and speeds meant it won out in the end. So today, ang pinaka-dominant form ng wired networking ay pwede nating masabing is yung Ethernet. So, pero before tayo sa mga types of Ethernet and its categories, first we are going to define and show what are the different types of shielding. So the different types of shielding is classified as U-UTP, or which is also called the unshielded cable or unshielded twisted pairs. And then we have the FUTP, or the foiled shielded cable, unshielded twisted pairs. And then the UFTP, or also called the unshielded cable, foiled shielded twisted pairs. SFTP, the braided shielded cable, foil twisted pairs. So, again, ang ibig sabihin ng TP is twisted pair, and then yung U is unshielded, and F is the folded shielded, and S is the braided shielding.
So, hello guys, I am Alden Evangelista, and I will be discussing about the categories of Ethernet cables. So, next. So, a variety of different cables are available for Ethernet and other telecommunications and networking applications. These network cables that are described by the different categories. For examples are the Cat5 cables, Cat6 cables, and etc., which are often recognized by the TIA, or Telecommunications Industries Association. And as you can see here, these are the summarized in the PowerPoint. So for Cat1, this is not recognized by the TIA. It is the form of wiring that is used for standard telephone wiring, or for ISDN. So for second is the Cat2. This is not recognized by the TIA. It was the form of wiring that was used for 4 Mbit token ring networks. So next is, for the third is the Cat3. This cable is defined in TIA. It is used for data networks employing frequencies up to 16 MHz. It was popular for use with 10 Mbps Ethernet networks, but now has been superseded by the Cat5 cable. For the fourth is the Cat4. This cable is not recognized by the TIA. However, it can be used for networks carrying frequencies up to 20 MHz. It was often used on 16 Mbps token ring networks. So next is the Cat5. This is not recognized by the TIA. This is the network cable that is widely used for 100 base T and 1000 base T networks, as it provides performance to allow data at 100 Mbps and slightly more Ethernet. The Cat5 superseded the Cat3 version, and for a number of years it became standard for Ethernet cabling. Cat5 cable is now obsolete, and therefore it is not for new installations. So next is the Cat5e. So this form of cable is recognized by the TIA. and it is defined in TIA, being last revised in 2001. It has slightly higher frequency specification that Cat5 cable as the performance extends up to 125 Mbps. So next is the Cat6. This cable is defined in TIA and provides a significant improvement in performance over Cat5 and Cat5e. During manufacture, Cat6 cables are more tightly wound than either Cat5 or Cat5e, and they often have an outer foil or braided shielding. The shielding protects the twisted pairs of wires inside the Ethernet cable, helping to prevent crosstalk and noise interference. Cat6 cables can technically support speeds up to 10 Gbps, but can only do so for up to 55 meters. Even so, this makes relatively long Ethernet cables. The next slide. The next is the Cat6a. The A in Cat6a stands for augmented, and the standard was revised in 2008. The Cat6a cables are able to support twice the maximum bandwidth and are capable of maintaining higher transmission speeds over longer network cable lengths. Cat6a cables utilize shielded, which is sufficient to all but eliminate crosstalk. However, this makes them less flexible than Cat6 cable. So next is the Cat7. This is an informal number for ISO. It compromises four individually shielded pairs inside an overall shield. It is aimed at applications where transmission of frequency up to 600 Mbps is required. So lastly, Cat8 cables. Cat8 cables have now released and provide a huge step in data rate bandwidth. Accordingly, these Cat8 cables are generally more expensive than the older versions like Cat6 or even Cat7. So next slide.
Hello, I am John Valenton and I will be discussing about the limitations of Ethernet. So here, a single Ethernet cable has a maximum distance capacity, meaning the cable has an upper limit as to how long it can be before there is a signal loss. This is called the attenuation. This problem results because the electrical resistance of a long cable affects the performance. So both ends of the cable should close enough to each other to receive signals quickly and far enough away from outside electrical interference to avoid interruptions. However, this precaution doesn't limit the size of a network because hardware like routers or hubs can join multiple Ethernet cables together on the same network. This distance between the two devices is called the network diameter. The maximum length of Cat5 cable before attenuation occurs in 100 meters. So Cat6 can go up to 700 feet, and Ethernet cables can be longer but may suffer from signal loss, especially if they pass near large electrical appliances. Different types of RJ45 connectors serve different purposes. So one type designed for use with stranded cables is incompatible with solid cables. So another type is the RJ45 connectors, which may work with both stranded and solid cables. We must take note that a short cable may suffer from reflection. However, some people have reported that it has no problem with cable lengths as low as 4 inches. So that's it. We are the group 8 and yeah, thank you for listening and for watching our group presentation.